Three, two, one.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. So, I've got a review here for The Babysitter, which is directed by Mick G, which I know, how weird is it that that's his name? But it's really weird. Going through Mick G's filmography, it's amazing the amount of stuff of his that I actually really like. So, I am a defender of the first Charlie's Angels. I do think the second one definitely dips in quality, but, you know, Demi Moore looked great in that, so I mean, what you're going to do. But going through here, I mean, so he was a producer and a director on The Mysteries of Laura, which was a dog shit show. So that's kind of weird that he happened to be a part of that. It was also, and I remember this show because I saw clips. He was an executive producer on Pussycat Dolls Present: The Search for the Next Doll back in 2007, which is I almost want to look up clips from that show. That's just, it's silly. But outside of that, he was a producer on the OC, which admittedly I did watch some episodes of, and is surprisingly more effective than it should be. He was a producer on Human Target, which I actually really liked. Was sad it got canceled. He was a producer on Nikita, which was on the CW, which had Maggie Q, who was a badass in that. Also didn't look too bad. It's actually a really good show. And he was also a producer on Lethal Weapon, the TV show, which I actually really enjoyed until the guy who played Riggs maybe went insane, ? And he, of course, was a producer on Chuck, which is one of my favorite TV shows ever. So, Mick G's had a lot of stuff that I actually like. Now, granted, I mentioned the second Charlie's Angels. He also was the screenwriter and a director, and the director for Terminator Salvation, which is a terrible movie. But then he was a producer on The Duff. So, I mean, it's a lot of back and forth with Mick G, but this is one of the times where Mick G hits. So the film plot, very simple. Don't need to go too much into it. So Judah Lewis plays Cole, who is just picked on constantly. This poor bastard just cannot seem to catch a break. He has only been acting for since like 2012. I guess he got his debut on, or made his debut on, CSI Cyber, which again, random show, but between that and in summer of '84, which if you haven't seen it, is a damn good show. Really interesting. But he plays Cole. He is a freshman, I believe, in high school. He's just going through it. He's going through all the terrible shit that you go through as a freshman, being insecure, not knowing who you are, all the fun classic tropes. And I will say, this is, while it's not the same thing, it reminded me a lot of Fright Night at points, just for how it is very witty and it is like a younger cast as far as who's being hunted and everything. And I actually found that to be the most endearing part about this, is because Cole is a character that you can get behind. His parents were played by Ken Marino, who is just so good at playing awkward. Think his character from Role Models. That's basically, he's playing the same character here, but he's great. And Leslie Bibb plays his mom, and Leslie Bibb, I adore her. So the parents aren't in this a lot. They go ahead and go off on a vacation. They're staying in town. They're just going to a hotel, but they go ahead and leave, and they leave Cole with his babysitter, who's played by Samara Weaving, who is B. I don't really recognize her. Oh, she's the main girl from Ready or Not. Okay, that makes sense. That's why she looks familiar. She's great in this, and the heart of the film is Cole and B's relationship, and having that realization that sometimes, unfortunately, as you get older, people are going to disappoint you, and B and Cole are just nerds with each other. I'm blanking on the film they watched outside together, but they go old school. They have a projector and they're projecting the movie and they're acting it out together and like doing even the sound effects and the score and like pretending that they're fighting. I want to say it's like a Cowboys and Indians type film, but it's really sweet how in a very quick amount of time the movie is able to go ahead and establish their friendship. I don't remember them saying how long B has been babysitting Cole. If they did, I'm just blanking on it. But basically, B goes ahead and tells Cole, "Hey, time for bed." I think she tells him to go to bed like around 11, and he gives her, or she offers to give him a shot of, I want to say it's bourbon, or a couple of shots of bourbon. So he, of course, Cole wants to be cool. B is super hot. They end up going swimming together, and she has, the classic 80s teen comedy moment where she takes off her shirt and takes off her jean shorts, and oh my god, she's a goddess. It's like the scene on Stacy's mom video, and Cole is just mesmerized, as he should be, and he wants her acceptance so badly. His parents are awkward. He doesn't really care about them getting their acceptance. There's a point that I think, as a parent, Leslie Bibb's character is really terrible, because there's this point where Cole asks her, like, "Am I a pussy?" Because Cole feels like he's just afraid of everything, and she really dances around it. Like, she basically does everything besides saying, "Yes, you are a pussy." But she has this moment where she tells him, "Look, you're afraid of a lot of things right now. There will be a point where you won't be." And in an ironic sort of twist, this horrendous night that Cole has ends up being really the catalyst for him going, "I don't need to take anyone's shit anymore." And so B, tells him to go to bed. He pretends to fall asleep, waits about 40 minutes, and what do you know? There's a knock at the door, and B brings in a bunch of her friends. Allison, played by Bella Thorne, who is everyone's favorite person right now. Robbie Amell, who I am so usually mixed on. I think Robbie Amell can just suck and shit sometimes, but I really like Code 8. Hannah May Lee, who plays Sonia, who you of course recognize from the Pitch Perfect films. And then Andrew Batchelor, who plays John, who is the black guy. And of course, I have to say it, he of course dies first, because as far as out of their group, because why wouldn't he? So the night starts off with a spin the bottle game, and they have this random nerdy kid there who I felt so bad for, because this nerdy guy is probably the most socially relevant thing he's been invited to. They don't say how old the guy is, but they're playing spin the bottle, and B and Allison, not Allison Brie, that would have been cool. But B and Allison end up kissing, and they have like a Jennifer's Body sort of kiss where there's like tongue and like slow lips and slow motion. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit it's one of my favorite parts of the movie, but the movie turns very grim because they immediately, pretty much after that, stab the nerdy guy that they invited, stab him through the head, and blood starts just gushing out of his head. And I will say, if you're kind of squeamish for gore, and I'll be the first to admit, I can watch something like The Punisher and be like, oh, it's fine. But just when blood is spurting out, it does make me kind of go like, ugh, ugh. So I personally wasn't a big fan of that. But this film was really gory. The deaths in this film are not for the weak at heart. You're going to feel every death that happens here. But what I will say too is that after they kill the nerdy guy, the deaths are very clever. And that's something I really had to give the movie, because Cole goes ahead, tries to sneak out. They tie him to a chair, which I thought was hilarious. So when he wakes up, when Cole wakes up, the first thing he says is he looks at Max, who's Robbie Amell's character, and goes, why isn't he wearing a shirt? And that in particular, that's where the movie itself really knows how to balance the very insane gore that this film has versus the the fun, and I know it's a weird word to use when hey everyone's getting murdered, but the very fun backdrop that this film has, because at the end of the day, this is about Cole learning to accept himself and be the best version of himself. And B has always represented that for him. That fantasy of, you know, maybe someday being with B has been what he's kind of strives for. And so by the end of at the end of the movie, it really is about him being okay with himself and the understanding that he can do better than B and be his own person. Uh, there are so many points in this that I actually found funny. Um, there's a point where Cole calls the cops because, you know, he sees someone get stabbed and blood spurting out. He calls the cops, and so Max ends up, I want to say it's Max or it's John. I think it's Max. Max grabs one of those fireplace like pokers and basically javelins it through this cop's eye, which I was mid sip of my drink and I was like, because this came out in 2017. I watched it once and went, that was pretty fun, and just didn't watch it again. So my partner and I, Elaine and I, watched it together, both of them back to back yesterday, and that death in particular really made me go like, oh crap, that's really terrible. But then it really is Home Alone. Once Cole goes ahead and breaks out from his chair, which was really funny because Allison points out the fact that we can see you trying to cut through the ropes because he's happens to be right in front of a mirror and they can all see the fucking mirror. That was really funny, but once he cuts the ropes and gets out, it is essentially Home Alone. John goes ahead and chases him. He slips on a race car, pretty much like straight out of Toy Story, and goes ahead and falls down the staircase and gets impaled, which was a death. I was like, oh shit, okay. Probably my favorite death, if I'm being honest, is the one for Sonia, because Cole essentially uses again, tying it back to Toy Story, uses a rocket to help kill her. He ends up in this crawl space that earlier on in the film they do a good job with him and Leslie Bibb establishing that they have a spider problem. And when I say a spider problem, I mean like again, Home Alone, like the tarantula that's on Marv's face. Like it's those type of spiders. They're these big ass horrifying spiders. And as someone who's not a fan of spiders, I would have been screaming if I had to go through that crawl space. So I give Cole a lot of credit for being able to keep his trap shut and not just lose his fucking mind. But I love that. I love that death in particular. Max, Robbie Amell, I gotta say, he has really great comedic timing here, just being the jock. There is this point where Cole is being bullied, and I felt like it was unnecessary because at the end of the day, it doesn't really tie back to anything. He has this black kid bullying him, but I love the fact that Max is almost cheering Cole on to survive the night, even though he's trying to kill him. Like, the irony is definitely there, but it's really funny how Max is just this total dumb jock, but he's almost like treating Cole like a little brother. Like, come on, like hit me. So he lets Cole punch him, and Cole gets a decent shot in, but then Max just kicks him, and he's chasing him. And they mention that Max is like the star quarterback of the high school, so he's, you know, running him down pretty much like a Terminator. It's a real, his death in particular is the most, I'd probably say the most funny, because he almost unintentionally kills himself because there's one little detail with eggs, which I appreciated. But his death is a lot of fun, and really all the deaths in this, as I mentioned, are brutal, but you never feel like Cole is Kevin McAllister. It feels like Cole is kind of getting, it's the perfect blend of him not being a sociopath like Kevin, you know, clearly grows up to be Jigsaw, but Cole, it's him being aware enough to know the house, but then there definitely being some luck on his side. And I appreciate that the film doesn't just have him go full serial killer. It really is him trying to just talk them down, and some of them happen to kind of die. You can't really kind of die, but you know what I mean. Anyways, but the scene in particular for me that really sells this is that him and B end up having a conversation. And earlier on in the film, Cole's talking about this intergalactic team that he would put together to save the world. And she goes ahead, B lays out who she would have on the team. I love that their last kind of conversation ties back to that in particular. It gave it a very human element that I think the movie didn't necessarily need, but it does remind you at the end of the day that is about Cole and B. I loved how they tied that back. And it really did give an extra layer of, oh, wow, that's kind of heavy as this film wraps up. As far as a complaint, again, this is a gory film, and I could see people just going like, this is too campy for me or too goofy. Honestly, that's what I liked about it. I like the fact that the film didn't take itself too seriously. I like the fact that Cole does gain more confidence as he continues to go through the film, and I really appreciate those elements about it. And B, when you find out why she's kind of going through all of this, and Cole has that realization of how he doesn't really need her, it's a really powerful character moment that I went, okay, movie, I really actually appreciate the way you're laying all this out. The writer of this movie was Brian Duffield. He has written a couple things. Insurgent, which okay. He also wrote. I haven't actually watched it yet. He wrote the latest Kristen Stewart movie, Underwater. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I will at some point. So, but I really enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun. It's like 85 minutes, I want to say. So, I mean, it's a quick watch, but I was entertained really the whole time. I think you can make the argument that the first part of the film is a little slow, but you are rewarded for your patience pretty much from the 15-minute mark on. So I would give this a solid A-. I thought this was a lot of fun. It is well worth your time. As I mentioned, I watched with my partner yesterday, and she was, her and I were just like, oh, wow, at multiple points. It's a lot of fun, and you could do far worse. And considering I'm on the West Coast and there's a lot of smoke outside, I have been staying inside, so this was a good watch. This was a good distraction. So, everyone, have you seen The Babysitter? Let us know what you thought in the comments. You can go ahead and follow yours truly on the Twitter at jhunterrealpineapple. You can go ahead and follow Scott on Twitter at Nearman the First. That's Nearman the First. And you can go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on SoundCloud, Apple and Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, TuneUp, and Spotify at The Real Pineapple. And don't forget to like our page on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We will have reviews up this upcoming week for the Umbrella Academy Seasons 1 and 2. And we'll have some other stuff for you as well. We'll talk the first Dune trailer, which I have not seen the original Dune, the like 5-hour miniseries or whatever. I haven't seen any version of Dune, so I'm going to be going in that cold. Hopefully we get that this year. I don't think we will, but we'll talk about the trailer. Everyone, please stay safe out there. Take care of each other. Wear a mask. And we will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.